Hello and welcome to Advocates for Angels, another parent testimony. We have Dr. Chris Eddow with us today, and Chris is going to be sharing her story about her son, Dylan, and we're going to be focusing on transition planning, which is so huge in terms of your child's special education program, and it is most often just skipped over and there's no focus or energy placed on it. They just write very arbitrary goals in the transition portion of the IEP, and parents usually don't have any clue what the true obligations of the district is in transition planning. So I want to first start out by giving you some legal foundation for what school districts are accountable and obligated to provide your child in the transition process. So the first thing I want to tell you is that transition planning is actually written, and it's the foundation of IDEA, is transition. So IDEA says, and of course, IDEA is federal law. So when it's federal, there's some things today we're going to be talking about that are just for California, but then most of this is IDEA federal law. So it applies to every state. If you're a parent that's not in California, most of this information applies to every state. And I will prompt you on, oh, this is just for California, so that you know. So what IDEA says about transition planning is, it is to ensure that all students and children with disabilities have available to them a free, appropriate public education that emphasizes special education and related services designed to meet your child's unique needs and prepare them, here it is, prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living. So it's right in the purpose and foundation of IDEA is to prepare your child for further education. So to go on to secondary education, a trade school, whatever it may be, to obtain competitive employment, get a job, and to live independently. It's right there in IDEA. So when they tell you, oh, well, that's not our responsibility, or, well, we don't focus on that, or we don't offer that in the IEP, that's your responsibility, parents. No, it's absolutely not. It is their responsibility to prepare your child for life after high school. Okay, so, and you can quote them, it's 20 USC 1400 small d 1 capital A, right there in the IDEA. Transition planning should be results oriented, not some arbitrary goals or Joey will go visit some junior colleges in the area. Arbitrary goal, and they have no accountability for that. That's all on you. Joey will go visit. That means you parents will take him to visit. Okay, that's an arbitrary goal. The transition plan must include goals based on age-appropriate transition assessments related to training, education, and employment. So those transition assessments are not just these little questionnaires, or they have pictures of a plumber, a salesperson, a cashier, a custodian, so on and so forth. And then the child check boxes, things that they might be interested in. That's not a transition assessment. And typically that's what they will give kids and go, oh yeah, we gave them the transition assessment and he had interest in these areas. And that's what they write in the transition portion of the IEP. No, that's not correct either. So you make sure that they give you a comprehensive transition assessment. So it is based on age-appropriate transition assessments related to training, related to education, related to employment, and if appropriate, independent living, and the transition services, including a course of study needed to assist the child in reaching these goals. So when we talked, Chris is going to share with you that Dylan took classes in senior year that were related to his course of study and his strengths and his interests. And it was attached and related to the transition plan. Now, also, federal special education law defines transition services as a coordinated set of activities for a student with a disability. And those things are, they are designed within a result-oriented process. So as I said, it can't be some arbitrary, generic information and written in there, which most of the time, I'm telling you 99.9% of the time, that's what it is. And but it needs to promote movement from school to post-school activities, including post-secondary education, vocational training, integrated employment, including supported employment. So after a child leaves high school, you can get supported employment, meaning that if they need an aide or a training assistant to go with them to the job, that's available. Continuing and adult education, so secondary education, adult services after high school, independent living or community participation. And it's also based upon the individual student's needs, taking into account the student's preferences, strengths, and interests. So that's why it's so important to start thinking about, even if your kiddo's in grade school or junior high, what does my kid love? What is my kid attracted to? What does my kid obsess on? What are their strengths? What are their interests? Because most likely that's going to be later on what's going to be in their transition plan and what you're going to look at to go into jobs or secondary education as a major or a training program. And 3, it includes instruction, related services, community experiences, the development or employment and other post-school adult living objectives, and when appropriate, acquisition of daily living skills and functional vocational evaluation. So that means a lot of kiddos actually need help and assistance, which they can get with daily living activities. And then all those other things, instruction, in their area of interest, related services on the IEP, community experiences. So it's they are required to take your child out into the community, to the community college, or take them to the local manufacturer of what they're interested in becoming after high school. These kinds of things should be included in the IEP. So I hope that gives you a good understanding of the foundation of transition planning. So now, Chris, let's talk about what we did with Dylan's transition planning when he was still in high school.
Absolutely. For his transition plan, one of the first things we made sure we did, in addition to everything you just stated, which was discussing his interests, as you said, he was very skilled in math and extremely skilled in computers, and showed, great aptitude in those areas. So in his 12th grade year, he really emphasized the computer skills, the math, and excelled at that. He was also always very interested in art, and we kept him in both, the art to continue all of his interests. Yes. And what we did is we made sure in advance that we were connected with our regional center. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to connect with your representative at the regional center. Make sure you have a case started. Don't wait till the 11th hour to do that. Dylan's case was actually, I believe, started when he was 3 years old. We just didn't need to use their services until he was through high school, but he was already established. And we invited our caseworker from Regional Center to attend his transitional session at his final, I think, 2 IEPs. She was there. She was gaining a great understanding of what his aptitude was, what his goals were. So she could help with our transition to him post-secondary.
Yes, absolutely. So that's a good segue into our item number 2 we want to talk about, which is invite outside agencies by the end of 11th grade. And that's just what you stated, Chris. Yeah. But now let me give a caveat here. The regional center is a California Department of Developmental Services agency. In other states, they'll have other things. They're not going to be called the regional center. They're going to be called something else. And I have no idea what it is because I live in California. So parents, you're going to have to find out, what does your Department of Developmental Services in your state offer that is an agency that takes over responsibility for your child after they graduate and leave public school. So, so as Chris said, and I always recommend, is that by the end of 11th grade, you're going to start thinking about, I'm going to start inviting my regional center or outside agency to the IEP meeting, because they want to start to get to know your child, know what their strengths are, and start to build a case already so that they're ready to take on that child as soon as they graduate high school and get them into services in a program. So let me talk a little bit about the legal requirements in terms of the school district and your IEP meeting and the outside agencies that are supposed to collaborate and coordinate together in the individual transition plan, which is also acronymed ITP. So you might hear them call it ITP. That means individual transition plan, which is what we're talking about today. Oh, and there's something I forgot to mention. So in California, the individual transition plan, the ITP, begins at 16. In some states, it begins at 14. Which is, and we used to begin at 14 too, and then they changed it to 16 a while ago. But so look and see, when does yours begin? And if yours begins at 14, well, boom, you start real early. So you can start holding them accountable even earlier than 16 as it is in California. So let me talk about a coordinated transition planning meeting, which is conducted as part of an IEP team meeting. So, and let me tell you, parents, they won't do it. Your IEP team is not going to call your regional center, is not going to call the Department of DOR.
Rehabilitation.
Thank you. Department of Rehabilitation, which is another agency in California that offers services to find a job for your child. So these are the other outside agencies in California that help kids after high school. So your IEP team is not going to invite them. You have to invite them. However, a caveat to that is the law does have in there that the school district is accountable to coordinate with them. But I'll tell you, boots on the ground, in reality, they never do. So parents, you be proactive and you make sure you invite them and make them do the transition plan lawfully. So, so as I said, it should include representatives of agencies that would serve the student once the student graduates, or if they have not graduated, reaches the age of 22. So sometimes kids don't graduate in the senior year, but they stay at the public school till they're 22 years old. Those various agencies provide continued educational support for students with disabilities since the school district is no longer responsible for their education. So as soon as they leave high school, these other agencies pick up. The transition plan or statement of needed transition services in each IEP must include a statement of the responsibilities of other participating agencies. So it's right there. It must include a statement of responsibilities of other participating agencies, but they never do it, parents. However, remember that the district remains ultimately responsible for ensuring that these services are provided. Therefore, if a participating agency stops providing an agreed upon service in your IEP in the transition plan, the district must fulfill that obligation or responsibility either directly or through contract or other agreement. That is a federal law. Okay, so that applies to every single state, parents. And the district must also have another IEP meeting to find a different way to meet the transition objectives in the IEP if one agency stops providing services. So IEP team has a huge responsibility in the transition plan. However, I can tell you these things never occur unless a parent knows their rights and knows these things and holds them accountable to doing it. So in California, these agencies include the Department of Rehabilitation, DOR, the Regional Center, college disability services. So when you go to college, you go to the disability department, and they offer the accommodations and so on, lots of different things, as
They
well
have
as
to.
private agencies. So they're also private agencies. Transition planning will give you a greater opportunity to become familiar with these community resources. If you are not in California, find out what disability agencies are responsible to partner with the school district in your state. Do not take a passive role in the planning process. Okay, so let's talk more, Chris, about, so we also invited DOR to your meeting, didn't we? Department of Rehab? I could swear we did.
I believe we did. It was Francine, and I don't believe she was able to make it. Was she there?
Yes. No, she wasn't, but she sent someone. DOR was there. I can see it in my mind now, that meeting. Yeah, it was another, I think 2 other people that came. And
it was Leslie from IRC and the Department of Rehabilitation.
Yes.
In Francine's place.
Yes, she was the boss overseeing.
Right.
A lot of times she didn't come, she sent someone else. So they were there, and so we got it going. I believe it was in the 11th grade, or 12th grade. We started inviting them, but a lot of parents only have one annual a year, and that's all they have. We would have meetings all the time. So we started our first 12th grade meeting, and then
probably in September of 12th grade.
Yeah, probably. So, but the point is, parents, don't wait till your child's graduating and it's their transition out of high school, and then you invite them. That's too late. Because I can tell you, these agencies are slow as turtles. It takes them so long to get anything going, to open a case, to gather the information. Do it at least a year prior. Okay.
I agree. I can't, piggyback on that enough. Get involved early on, find out who your agencies are. They might be a county agency. They might be a regional type of agency. They might be a state agency, depending on where you live, but find out who they are and start to get to know them, and establish your child with them so that you have a case. And when you invite somebody, there's a name attached that you can hold accountable to be there. Otherwise they'll say the case isn't open yet. You didn't open it soon enough. So
you have to open the case, and it takes a long time. And then your child has a case, your child has a file, and then they're obligated to come. To the meeting.
Exactly. So it's the more proactive you are, and the sooner you start to act on it and learn about it, the more successful you're going to be in a transition.
That's right. So the third item of our discussion is now we're going to talk about self-determination program. So for you parents in California, this is the golden ticket. Okay, you won the lottery. Self-determination is what you need to do, and you need to do it, start opening and working on it now. And so I'm going to have Chris share her story about self-determination and how successful she was. And now you have to be a regional center client. You get self-determination. And so Chris, you're on.
Well, so there's different regional center programs, and for kids like mine who are, for example, my son is 20 years old. He's doing an online associate degree program in accounting, and but he still has a lot of needs. So a typical cookie cutter program is not appropriate for somebody with all of Dylan's aptitudes and needs. So what they have is what's called self-determination, which is you work with them to establish a budget, an annual budget on what your child needs. And I actually used the equivalent of Valerie, kind of an advocate for the self-determination program, to help me put together what would be an appropriate plan so that Dylan could apply for that and justify funds. And we asked for corgis to bark. Sorry about that. We asked for a personal assistant because he doesn't drive, and it's really important that he still get out and about in the community. We asked for tutors because he is in college. They are not paying for his tuition. We asked for recreational things like art classes, photography classes. They've helped with his equipment. They've paid for him to be able to get out. He's got a huge love of animals, and he's able to be social and get out to the aquarium, zoo, and wild animal park with your memberships. And they also
Which
have paid,
they funded the
yes,
memberships.
they funded the memberships, and they've also paid for him to do, I'm very concerned about kids that are just home, and I'm a physical therapist, and there's Dylan. I'm a physical therapist, and he's trying to quiet my dogs. And I really care about fitness and being active. So I have to say that it was very important to me to get a kind of a gym program going, and they paid for that to make sure he remains active and fit. I cannot handle thinking about these kids, and Dylan is very low maintenance. He's very sweet. If I didn't prompt him, he'd be very quiet up in his room. But that's not very good for him physically. It's not very good for him mentally.
Yeah.
So we were able to fund all kinds of services, activities, equipment, art equipment, photography equipment, so that he's able to participate in all of these things and just thrive. He's got tutors. So he meets with his tutors. He's got an executive functioning tutor that he meets with once a week. And this is all because we knew how to apply for a budget that funds this. Now, the thing is you can imagine, they give you the money. What they want is you to fund the money the way you have to be. You have to justify it in a budget, but you also have to partner with an independent agency. Because as you can imagine, there could be some people that would really take advantage of being written their golden ticket check and go to TD and just, send pictures back of them with, their foofy drink with an umbrella in it. And they want to make sure you're actually using the money for what it's for. And I am all for that, because I don't want anyone to take advantage of their kid or of the funds, because that would wreck it for all of us. But we were able to secure an amazing program for Dylan. And, we'll have to go over it again in the summer, because his cycle is up in June. But we were able to secure many, many amazing programs, services, and he's just thriving. He's finished his first year and a half of his degree in accounting. And looks like he's also going to be going on to his second degree after that in digital arts.
Yes, amazing, amazing. Yeah, so let me quantify my golden ticket statement a little bit here. So the reason I said that is because before self-determination, the regional center in California, it was like pulling teeth to get anything out of them. So, and parents would go, why do I even have the regional center? They've never done anything for me or my child to help me or help my child. Well, that's because they're a government state agency. They have gatekeepers. They say no. If it's always a denial at first, you have to appeal it to get to the yes. It's like IEP, 201, deja vu. I think I'm in an IP meeting because everything
it's
I
IEP on steroids.
Yeah. So that's why I said you won the golden ticket, because in the regional center world, you get what you need for your child. Of course, there's a process. Of course, there's paperwork. Of course, you have to follow the process and do it correctly. However, the benefit and the potential of the program you can build for your child funded by the state is like a dream come true. And so that was why I said that. So for parents who are in California, they'll understand exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it is like a dream come true. You get to actually make sure your child gets the services.
Yeah.
And the funds are allocated to the things that they need, the things that they're interested in. They're not just sitting and waiting. But the thing is you do have to learn about where your agency is.
Yeah.
You have to establish yourself with them. And again, they make you jump through hoops. They make you attend. I had to get a certificate and attend a parent learning session showing that I knew what self-determination was. I had to do basically a continuing education course to prove that I attended and I was aware.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things that you have to do to
Yes.
get this, but it's definitely worth it.
Yes. And yeah, because as Chris said, it's not just handed to you on a silver platter. You have to work for it, but that's because they're handing out 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $100,000 for some of these kids. Now, so of course there's a stringent process and things that you must, achieve or prove or, reflect in order to be approved for those funds. So, and there's a learning curve. It takes a while. You have to do studying, you have to understand things, you have to take a class. It's not an easy thing, absolutely not. But the benefit in the long run, once you get it, there's no words to put to it, because this just doesn't go away. And it's not something you have to like advocate and fight for every year. Once it's in place and you've established that need, they very rarely question you the next year, or things might change, like, well, now he's not in that program, he's going to be over in this program now, so we're just going to transfer those funds for that program over to this program, things like that. But it just, as of course, as their needs change, as they grow and their life changes, then the program's going to change and the funds are going to go to different places. But your budget probably remain kind of the same. It might fluctuate a little bit, but when so there's only, the big hurdle of the learning curve and all the time that it takes to establish it. It's a one-time deal, and then you're kind of in a maintenance mode after that.
Exactly.
So,
And then I think what you should emphasize is this is not like the school district that ends when they graduate high school. This is a lifelong thing. And it's going to grow and change with them throughout their life. It doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't go away. No, this is adult services. So yep, it's their whole life. There's no graduation.
So it's essential to learn about it, educate yourself, establish your child in it, learn about it early. Start getting them involved when they're still in the school district, so you can seamlessly transition to it when they are out of the school district. It's really worth it.
Yes. So that is the most important thing I wanted to get across to you parents. And as I said, if you're in another state, not in California, you need to research and find out what is your regional center and self-determination program in your other states, because self-determination is a big thing now. It's, it's much different than years ago when, kids with disabilities or adults with disabilities, they didn't have many rights. They were just, told what to do. They always had an adult around telling them what to do. Things have changed, and they want them to be sovereign and, independent and be able to speak for themselves.
Yeah, they want
and make their own choices about their life.
Yeah, that is really a big deal. And I know we're going to be talking about conservatorship a little bit. It's a really big deal to regional centers. It's a really big deal to Department of Rehabilitation, and it's a really big deal to the courts. They have to have, they have to be in charge of themselves. And we're just there as people who care about them to help manage that.
Yes, absolutely. So that leads us right into our issue number 4, the last one, which is a conservatorship. So first, what I'm going to establish, there's 2 kinds of conservatorship. There's a full conservatorship, and then there's a limited conservatorship. So a full conservatorship is when it's mostly for severely handicapped, I hate that word handicapped, but severely impaired or severely involved adults, okay, who absolutely need someone to make every little decision for them because they're not capable of doing so. So, and when you think about it, that's not going to be as many as all the kids that might need a limited conservatorship, just because they want their parents to assist them in certain decisions and guide them, but they're still autonomous with a limited conservatorship. However, you as a parent have the authority to continue to speak for them because there's a limited conservatorship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Chris did for her son, Dylan. So Chris, do you want to tell us about your experience with the limited conservatorship?
Absolutely. I knew, and it partially, just to be fair, I knew about a couple laws where there would be difficulty once my son was over 18. And one of them is HIPAA, which is a healthcare law, which means once somebody is over 18, you are no longer in charge of helping, signing for them.
Yes.
And if you don't feel that they can make those decisions. So for example, my son in no way, shape, or form will go to the dentist or the doctor and take care of himself, get his teeth cleaned. For example, he has to have his wisdom teeth out. You think he was going to go and do that?
Yeah.
No. So that helps me with those healthcare privacy rulings. And I can't, when I go there now that he's 20 and I show them my conservatorship rights, I have no problem. They know that I can sign for him because I'm his conservator.
Yes.
The other thing is in education, once they're over 18, there's a privacy law called FERPA. And what FERPA is the higher educational equivalent to HIPAA. And that means that a college student can't have their parents just call the university and ask about how they're doing on their grades or their financial aid or anything. It's trying to, help them with that. Well, Dylan is in an online associate degree program. And because I was able to supply the conservatorship papers, I can talk to his advisor, his teachers, and help him through that process. And they don't hesitate to talk to me. Yes. So that's really the main reasons I did it, was to protect him. He has all the right to make quite a few decisions himself. And I want him to. For example, if he wants to vote, I will be the first person to show him the voter registration, information, and take him to the polling place myself. So he's got a lot of things he needs to do, but he's also very vulnerable in many ways, and we're there to protect him. And that's the limited conservatorship. And to be really honest with you, the courts do not like, the full conservatorship unless you can really prove that that person is that needy. They want people to maintain some of their rights, the right to decide if they want to move out, the right to decide their sexuality, the right to decide where they want to go to church or if they want to go to church. They have all of those rights. They can make their own decisions. But when it comes to things like their health and decisions where they're vulnerable and they might need a little bit of assistance, that's what the beauty of limited conservatorship is. And you have to get an attorney. You do initially have to go to court. A judge will hear you out. After a year, if you're granted, they will have somebody pop into your house, a court investigator, and check out if you're doing your job and you're being good. And we just had that literally 2 weeks ago today. The investigator came to our house and called my husband and I unicorns because she was so happy with the way our son was doing. And so we, without having to go back to court, have had our conservatorship renewed, and they will come back around again in about 2 years. But it makes, just for an adult, semi-dependent, I'm going to call him semi-dependent. It really, really helps you help them.
Yes.
And just not have to deal with trying to talk them into signing for something or like that. But for example, I don't have rights over any of his finances. His finances are his.
Nice. Yeah, but you can guide him on all.
I guide him on all of those things,
and you take care of that. But we're going to guide you here in this area.
Exactly.
So that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. So he's learned how to manage a credit card and a checking account and things like that.
Yeah.
And when it comes to healthcare and his education and in managing, some of those things, we help him with those decisions.
Yeah. And it can really get challenging without a limited conservatorship when they're adults, because no one will talk to you on the phone.
No.
If you try to call for your child, they'll go, "I'm sorry, I can't talk to you. Where's your kid?" And, so, you have to get your kid and go, "Yes, you can, I give permission for you to talk to my mom," but they still might want to ask them questions. And then our kids don't know how to answer the questions.
Right.
And it's really a big headache.
And unfortunately, some of these representatives, either in financial institutions or healthcare or education, they can be a little unintentionally manipulative and ask them questions. And if there's somebody like Dylan, all he wants to do is get off the phone because he's
Yeah.
nervous, and he'll just say, yes, I mean,
Yeah.
no, I mean, yes. And they're just
Exactly.
taking him at face value, and he's actually not answering their question. And
Yep.
it's doing more harm than good. So having conservatorship helps me be able to say, no, I have the legal right to act on his behalf.
Yep.
If you need to see the paper, I can scan it and send it to you because it's actually a superior court document.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So parents, that's a lot of stuff to start working on your life after high school. But I can tell you that your child or your adult child is going to be so much more happy because they're going to have a life that they've chosen based on their strengths and their what their interests are. You'll have a better opportunity to find a job or look for continued education and start and help them with the goal of being more independent. And so that's the goal. But it takes work, it takes investment in time and money, because this is an attorney fee for the limited conservatorship. But this will set your child up for adult life. So don't wait, because I have a lot of parents, waiting until their child's 25 or, late 20s. And then they start thinking about this, because then it starts getting bad because their kid's been sitting in their room for 6 years doing nothing. So
get a conservatorship, try to get that when they're 16, 17 years old. Well, don't wait till they're 18. Once they're an adult, it's a little bit more challenging. And then you talked about self-determination being a golden ticket. Well, the thing is, unlike the school district where you had to beg and plead for, I want these speech therapy services, I want this audiology, I want this, you've got the budget.
Yep.
You decide what they're going to do with that budget. I want him to go to this autism camp for a week. I want him, I get respite so that he can stay with his grandparents. And, we get to decide. You know what your kid needs, and now you have the ability to decide how that budget is used for their benefit. What type of personal assistant they get. Like my son has a personal assistant that is helping him train for his Special Olympics track and field.
And you got to choose that staff
instead
of having to accept some flunky that the district gave you.
Yeah, I got someone who has a degree in education from Cal Baptist University, who's a coach at Santiago High School.
Yeah, so the parents have the power in self-determination. Yeah. That's what I said. It's like a dream come true. Like, wait, this is an alternate universe. What's happening?
I know. And it's a lot of work and it's very daunting at first, but once it's in place, you kind of can't believe some of the things that come to you. And you think, is this real? You want to pinch yourself. He got this photography equipment for his photo class.
Yeah, because we all have PTSD and have been abused and harassed for so many years from the school district.
And then all of a sudden you just see your kid that you've believed in for so long just thrive because all of a sudden you're in the driver's seat.
Yes.
And it's actually, for want of a better word, it's liberating. But you've got to go through the process. And again, it's new. It's totally different than an IEP than the school district. When you first dip your toe in it, it's kind of intimidating. But it
can be, but don't give up.
Don't give up.
It can be very intimidating, overwhelming. There's a lot of all this information coming at you. It's kind of like when your kid first got an IEP and you're like in a new universe of IEP world, and you're like, oh, I'm drowning. I can't take this. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But then you just slowly, you jump in, you start learning, and you can get an advocate to help you. I got an advocate.
So did I.
With my daughter. I referred that advocate to Chris. I refer that advocate to all my clients, and all my clients have been successful in getting an amazing self-determination program. So yes, you need someone to help you, or you will be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing as IP. You get someone to help you, then you're successful, and you do it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, well, I think that's great, Chris. I think we covered a lot of ground and
Yeah.
very important information for parents to focus on the transition plan and life after high school. So parents, good luck and start now. Don't wait. And best of luck in the future. And we're always cheering you on.
You can do it.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Dr. Eddow.
Oh, my pleasure.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.